Hi, my name is Jeff Eccles. I'm a senior advisor at KP Reddy Company, and today I am joined by KP Reddy. He's a leading voice in the intersection of technology and business. He's the founder and CEO of both KP Reddy Company and Shadow Ventures. Shadow Ventures is a venture capital firm that's focused on investing and building AI and robotics startups, all focused on the built environment. He has a deep understanding of how technology is reshaping industries, especially AEC industries. He's also the author of Creating the Intangible Enterprise. It's a book that explores the critical skills that are needed to thrive in an AI driven world. KP emphasizes the importance of human centric skills like creativity, leadership, and emotional intelligence in navigating the changing landscape of work. His insights are particularly relevant for architecture, engineering, and the construction industries, which are all undergoing a significant transformation due to advancements in AI and automation. So, KP, thanks for joining me today. Um, it's going to be fun to dig into a talk that you have coming up at the GBA annual conference in 2025 in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. No, it's my people, right? Going to speak to my people.
Exactly, exactly. And if you're out there, I know most of the people that are watching this interview or listening to this interview are familiar with with GBA. But if you have happened upon this somehow and you're not familiar with GBA, well, GBA is a geoprofessional business association. So, geo professional engineers, et cetera. I mean, I know we talked about this before we got started, maybe more scientists than engineers, but it's people that are focused certainly on a lot of the things that not only we look at every day, but a lot of the startups that are in the Shadow Ventures portfolio. So I think this is a great fit for the things that you focus on in your investing, that we focus on in our advising, and the work that's going on around the world for designing and building the built environment. So, why don't we start with talking about your book, Creating the Intangible Enterprise? Uh, in your book, you talk about the importance of human skills in an AI driven world, which may seem like a little bit of a curveball when we're talking about the audience that we're talking about here. But can you share some specific examples of how these skills will be crucial for consulting engineers and scientists in the AE industry?
Yeah, I mean, happy to do that. I think as a little background, a lot of people may or may not know, is I started off as a geotechnical engineer. So my earliest career straight out of college was running a soils lab and then became a geotechnical engineer and then did environmental work. So it's been a couple years, but that's where I started, so to speak. And I think it's, there's so much that has changed since then, but then there's so many things that have stayed the same. And I think in a world where, for me and my job, we went out and drilled holes, analyzed soil logs, and came up with, findings and reports based on what we found in the ground, so to speak. And then now you're seeing AI tools that kind of automatically do that. They take boring logs and categorize the soil types. We used to have to go do environmental, site assessments, and we'd walk around with it, literally a notepad, not like today how we think about iPads and all that, but literally a piece of paper. And I'm not sure that that's changed any. And doing wetlands delineations and things like that, and all that stuff is like highly automated now. There's products and technology to do that. There's AI enablement. I don't have to like know how to like what the different soil types are. The camera on my phone will tell me what the soil type is. So a lot of that field data collection where I used to go spend days and weeks out in the field has now really been short circuited by a lot of the mobility and AI tools that are out there to really support geoprofessionals. So that's an interesting trend um, that's happening like right now, right? So if you look at that and say, okay, well, when I was doing it in 1994, um, dang, 30 years ago, is that right? Yeah,
Mm.
30 years ago.
It is.
Jeez.
That's the
We
math.
just
Yeah.
all got old. Um, that it was just highly manual. But one thing that remained true was we got most of our work through relationships. The long-standing relationships that we had very little to do with the geotechnical report or the phase one site, side. Like that was a big so what, right? It was really applying creativity and helping the client figure out, like, okay, based on this, what are my options, right? And really collaborating with them. And I think in many ways, in an AI-driven world where so much technology is already doing all of this, and if you're not aware of it, I'm going to talk a little bit about, how these technologies are affecting everything, specifically on the field data collection and on the report writing, and even to a degree, the analytics, that you're not spending hours and days in spreadsheets anymore. So what does that mean you do with that extra time? It really means, if you're a professional, either your firm brand becomes even more important, and even more so these days is your personal brand. And people forget that your personal brand is very important, and how you execute on that, develop that, is super important. So those are things that are more on the softer side of stuff that I think is really important for the industry to know. And I'm going to hit on some of the examples. I'm a big case study person, and I'm going to hit on some of those examples.
Yeah. So the title of your talk, you alluded to it a second ago, but the title of your talk is Thriving in the Tech Age: AI's Role in Shaping AE, the Changing Role of Consulting Engineers. And obviously you're going to draw a lot from your book, and a lot of your book is for those that haven't read it, you may read it and go, okay, this is an AI book. But as we talked about a little bit, it's like, oh, this is a human book, right? In an AI driven world. So when your talk mentions thriving in the tech age, what advice would you give to consulting engineers who might be feeling overwhelmed or even threatened by the rapid advancements in AI and technology, especially in the light of what you were just saying about the human side and the business development
Yeah,
side?
I think part of it is I think there's a couple things we have to think about. One is how we think about recruiting new talent into the industry. If you recruited someone out of college and handed them like a legal pad and said get to work, they'd probably quit the next day. And you also look at the talent that comes out of college. They're not necessarily, project ready, work ready. They have some theoretical things that they've learned, and you have to really mold and shape them. And so I think one of the things is the firms that'll have an advantage are the ones that don't take these young people and say, oh, you need to pay your dues and do all this grunt work and repetitive work. It's the ones that say, you know what, AI can do that repetitive work. Let me spend time with you to build the more advanced aspects of our business instead of the basics, right? Instead of like putting someone in a soils lab, which what I did, and sat there and said, "Hey, all these boring logs, I need you to categorize them all." And I sat there for days and weeks and years categorizing boring logs. Um, AI can do that. Like, why do you need me? And it also left me a little disenfranchised. I mean, I was in the industry for 5 years and went into a startup because I'm like, this is like brutal grunt work. Why am I here? So I think bringing the best tools to bear is a great recruitment tool to bring new people into the organization. Secondly, I think from a business perspective, if you're a small or mid-sized firm and your only ability to compete with the big guys, so to speak, is staffing, AI is your answer, right? So, you basically have the ability, if you do it well, to grow infinitely, to grow infinitely. It's not like, oh, they have 10,000 people, I have 10 people. How will I ever compete? Well, let me tell you, you can, and let me show you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, those are great points. And you have extensive experience in investing on the startup side, certainly. But you and I both come from the AEC industry, as you said, working in firms, boots on the ground kind of thing. What are some of the most exciting applications that you see out there, whether it's AI or other tech driven? But what's out there that's coming that's going to excite the folks that are attending the
Yeah, I
conference?
mean, I like, we have a company we invested in called EcoBot. They are basically field data collection using AI. I don't need to know what species of plant that is. The AI will tell me. So maybe I'm a strong geologist and a poor, not a great botanist. I can get help. And maybe if I'm a great botanist and I don't know how to differentiate the different soil colors, um, I can use EcoBot to figure all that stuff out. But the key part there is not just the field enablement, but getting that field data back into the office real time as fast as possible so that engineering teams can make decisions faster and therefore serve their clients better. When I talk to owners, which I talk to a lot of owners and developers, their biggest complaint isn't necessarily costs, it's time. It's I hire a consulting engineer. They said they'd get it done in 4 weeks. I'm now on week 6, and I haven't heard anything. Right? So instead of this like linear approach to engaging with the customer, that I have to finish the report and send them a report, how about if you give them information as field data is being collected and being able to give them some insights ahead of time until you finish your final report, right? So that's super interesting. Then we have companies like Aaron that do computer vision, so they fly drones over bridges and pavements and roofs and all that, and they take all that video data and AI analyzes the video data to understand cracks and issues and discrepancies and runs engineering analysis automatically to determine what needs to be repaired. So there's amazing things happening. I'm fortunate in my job, my venture capital job. I talk to 20 to 50 startups a week, and the rate and pace of interesting things happening that will be disruptive to the industry if the industry does not adopt. I will tell you one thing: these founders, they're like, either the industry will adopt it or we're just going to go straight to the owners. We'll just compete with you. And I think that's something that the industry doesn't necessarily see coming. If they
Yeah.
don't move faster than the startups are eating their lunch.
Right, right, and it is exciting. We just as we're recording this on Friday, just a couple of days ago, we hosted our final virtual demo day of 2024, where we heard from 6 startups that are all focused on the way that we design, build, operate, and live in and work in the built environment. So it's an exciting world. All right, I've got one more question before we wrap this up. And so if you've been listening, you already know this, but I'm talking with KP Reddy, the founder and CEO of Shadow Ventures. He's going to be speaking at the GBA 2025 annual conference, the annual conference for the Geoprofessional Business Association. It's coming up April 24th through 26th, 2025 in Savannah, Georgia. So, KP, we talked about your book. We've talked about your talk. You were just talking about some of the startups that you've invested in. So, looking ahead, what's one key prediction that you have for the future of the AE industry or the AEC industry in the context of AI and emerging technology? And what steps can these consulting engineers and scientists take today to prepare for that future?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing I'm seeing is everyone is playing in everyone's swim lanes. I talked to architecture firms that are starting structural engineering departments, structural engineering firms that are starting architectural departments, uh, consulting engineering firms that are now starting environmental firms. So the reason you're seeing that is, one, it used to be, if I'm a structural engineer, for example, and I want to start an architecture firm, oh, I've got to go out and hire 50 people. What they're realizing is I can hire one or two architects and leverage AI, and then I have the power of a 200-person architecture firm. And so that's happening across the board. So if you think about value capture from a single customer, well, if all you're doing is environmental permitting for a single customer, maybe you're doing $1 million a year with them. Maybe, right? Oh, but if you can go to that same customer and you have a strong relationship and say, oh, it turns out I can also do your civil engineering work. Oh, it turns out I can also do your construction management. And then all of a sudden you take that one relationship and expand it to a $5 million revenue customer. That's fantastic, right? So strategically, you have to think about, like, how can I offer new services to the relationships I have, and also at the same time maybe create net new relationships, right? So those are the two kind of growth strategies most people deploy. Um, so I think that's the key thing to know, is that, like, it is the biggest entrepreneur. I think about AI and innovation in our space. It's probably driving the biggest entrepreneurial era of our industry because of these technologies. I mean, you're a recovering architect. If you wanted to go back into architecture, All you need is a customer. You could be a one-person firm doing 10 million a year if you wanted to, right? But yeah, I mean,
Sure,
you
fine.
don't like money. That's why you studied architecture.
That is what they taught us in school. That is correct. That was I was in school the same time you were in school, so that was a long time ago. All right, I've been talking with KP Reddy. He is the founder and CEO of Shadow Ventures. He's the author of Creating the Intangible Enterprise, the critical skills required to thrive in an AI driven world. He will be speaking at the GeoProfessional Business Association's annual conference, April 24th to 26th of 2025 in Savannah, Georgia. The title of his talk is Thriving in the Tech Age: AI's Role in Shaping Architecture and Engineering, the Changing Role of Consulting Engineers and Scientists. KP, thanks so much for joining me today and talking about what you're going to talk about. That got a little meta, didn't it?
Yeah. No, I'm really excited too. If those of you that know me, I'm not a show up, speak, and jump out, and leave. I'll be floating around ahead of time. I'll be floating around after the fact. So, best way to reach out to me is, follow me on LinkedIn and message me and whatnot. And my email box is constantly full. So just follow me on LinkedIn and message me, and we can try to find a time to meet up while I'm there.
All right. Sounds great. Everybody look for KP Ready there in Savannah in April. It's also a very beautiful time to be in Savannah, Georgia. So enjoy. And KP, thanks for joining me.